Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The karaoke lounge was bathed in dim amber light, soft, honeyed, and humming with low laughter. Music spilled through velvet curtains, voices mingling with the scent of wine and perfume. Couples leaned close around small tables, eyes glimmering with the kind of energy that only nights like this could create. I didn't plan to notice him that way, her guy. He was supposed to be just part of the evening crowd, part of the friendly laughter we all shared. But when our eyes met across the plush red sofa, the world seemed to hush. The song faded into background haze, and for a single heartbeat, I could feel the air between us shift, heavy, charged, waiting. He smiled, not bold, not teasing, just aware. The kind of smile that says too much without a word. I felt my pulse jump, unsure if I should look away or hold his gaze longer. My best friend, his girlfriend, was singing, her laughter filling the room, and yet his eyes stayed locked with mine, as if drawn by something neither of us could name. The light caught on the curve of his jaw, the slow rise of his breath. Everything about the moment felt suspended, the flicker of neon, the rhythm of the song, even the warmth of the sofa beneath me. I could sense the beginnings of something dangerous, yet strangely magnetic, a pull that shouldn't exist, but did. When the song ended, he moved closer, his voice low, steady, asking what I'd sing next. His tone was friendly, but his eyes told another story, one of curiosity, of boundaries being tested under the cover of dim light and music. I smiled back, unsure if it was my imagination or if he truly lingered an inch too close, his presence stirring something deep, unspoken, and thrilling inside me. As laughter and melody wrapped around us, a quiet tension grew, slow as honey, sweet as sin, and utterly intoxicating. It wasn't a touch yet, not even a whisper of one, just a shared breath, a shared thought. But it was enough to change everything. Something was about to begin, something neither of us could pretend to ignore any longer. The music shifted to something slower, a love ballad, smooth and nostalgic. The lounge lights dimmed further, wrapping the room in golden shadows. The others were laughing, singing, clinking glasses, but between him and me, it felt like the world had narrowed to a single heartbeat. He leaned closer, passing me the songbook. His hand brushed mine, a fleeting touch, soft as silk, but it sent a current up my arm. "You should sing next," he said, voice quiet, almost teasing. I smiled, pretending not to notice the warmth that bloomed from that single touch. "Only if you promise to sing with me," I whispered back. He chuckled, low and deep. "I can't sing," he admitted. "But I can try if you lead." Our friends were too caught up in their own laughter to notice the silent conversation weaving between us. Every glance felt longer, every smile heavier with meaning. I told myself it was harmless, just playful energy between friends. But when he stood beside me at the mic, the space between us felt electric. Our shoulders brushed as the first notes played. My voice trembled on the first line, his laughter softened it. We were close enough that I could feel the rhythm of his breath, smell the faint trace of his cologne, fresh, steady, familiar. For a moment, I forgot where we were. The lyrics spoke of love that shouldn't be, and it felt too fitting, too dangerously real. His hand found the edge of the mic stand, his fingers grazing mine. Neither of us pulled away. After the song, I turned to leave the small stage, but he caught my wrist gently, stopping me. "You sing beautifully," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Don't say that," I murmured, though I smiled anyway. "Why not?" "Because you say it like you mean it," I replied. The words hung between us, trembling like the last note of a song. For a breathless second, we didn't move. Then, as if the room had vanished, he reached up not to touch me, but to tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered just long enough to make my pulse skip. It was a small gesture, but it felt immense. And when our eyes met again, it wasn't confusion anymore, it was promise. Something had begun, quietly, dangerously, beautifully. The night deepened, and with it, the music softened into a slow hum that seemed to echo the pulse in my chest. The others were busy choosing their next songs, unaware of the quiet storm brewing just a few feet away. I sat on the plush sofa again, glass in hand, pretending to scroll through song titles. But I could feel him there, standing close behind me. The warmth of his presence brushed the back of my neck, and when he leaned down to speak, his breath stirred the loose strands of my hair. "Still thinking about that song?" he asked. I smiled faintly. "Still thinking about your voice trying to keep up with mine." He laughed softly, that low sound that somehow made my heart ache. "Then maybe we should do a duet again." The words were simple, but the tone wasn't. It carried something else, a dare wrapped in charm, a truth neither of us wanted to name. I turned slightly, and our eyes met. For too long. Too close. In that suspended gaze, the world fell away. I could see the question flicker in his eyes, should we? And I knew he saw the same answer in mine, we shouldn't, but I want to. A voice inside me whispered of loyalty, of lines that should never blur. But desire has a way of making reason sound distant. Every accidental brush of his hand, every shared laugh, every glance that lingered, it all built like a song reaching its final, trembling note. He sat beside me, the space between us shrinking until even silence felt intimate. His knee brushed mine, an innocent touch, but neither of us moved away. "Do you ever feel," he said quietly, "that some moments just happen, no matter how hard you try to stop them?" I turned to him slowly. "Yes," I breathed, "and they're the hardest ones to forget." The music shifted again, soft piano, full of yearning. Our eyes locked. Time seemed to slow. He leaned in slightly, not enough to cross the line, but close enough for me to feel the warmth of what might happen if he did. And just when the distance between us felt paper-thin, a friend's laughter broke the spell. We pulled apart, hearts racing, pretending nothing had happened, but everything had changed. The night was thinning into its final hours, that quiet stretch when music fades into murmurs and laughter turns softer, almost secret. The others had stepped outside for air, leaving just the two of us in the lounge. The silence was thick, not empty but alive. I could hear the faint hum of the speakers, the rustle of velvet cushions, the echo of his faint exhale. He stood by the table, turning a half-empty glass in his hand. I sat across from him, pretending to check my phone, pretending I wasn't counting each second he didn't look away. "Looks like it's just us now," he said finally, his voice soft but steady. "Yeah," I replied, my tone caught somewhere between a whisper and a confession. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that wasn't for show, it was for me. Then he crossed the room, slow, deliberate, until the air between us thinned. When he sat beside me, I could feel the warmth radiating from his arm. Neither of us spoke for a moment. There was no need. The silence said everything words couldn't. He looked at me, really looked, as if memorizing the shape of my thoughts. "You're quiet," he said, his voice a low hum. "So are you." He chuckled softly. "Maybe I'm just trying not to say what I'm thinking." My heart tripped. "Then don't," I whispered. But even as I said it, I knew I wanted to hear it. The air grew warmer, heavy with something tender and dangerous. I shifted slightly, our shoulders brushing, a fleeting touch, but it sent a ripple through both of us. I could feel his gaze trace my profile, my breath faltering under its weight. He leaned closer, not touching yet, just near enough that I could feel the ghost of his breath against my cheek. My pulse roared in my ears. Everything slowed, the lights, the air, the world outside. "Tell me to stop," he murmured, almost pleading. I looked into his eyes, saw the battle between what was right and what was real. "I can't," I breathed. For a heartbeat, the world stopped. His hand lifted slightly, hovering near mine, one more inch, and everything would change. Then a door creaked open. Voices drifted in. We pulled apart, hearts trembling, eyes full of everything we couldn't say. The moment had passed, but the fire it left behind refused to fade. The moment that almost happened between us lingered like smoke, invisible but everywhere. Even after everyone returned, I could still feel his nearness in the air, the ghost of his voice still whispering in my mind. We pretended to be normal, laughed at jokes, Shared glances that meant nothing to anyone else, but everything to us. Each second stretched longer than it should. And though we sat apart, our thoughts never truly left that quiet corner of the room where we had almost crossed the line. Then came the twist. As the night waned, his girlfriend, my best friend, turned toward me with a knowing smile. "You two make good duet partners," she teased lightly, her voice carrying a lilt that made my chest tighten. "Maybe too good." My throat went dry. His eyes flicked to mine, a flash of panic, quickly masked by a practiced grin. "Just good music," he said easily. "That's all." But her gaze lingered. Maybe she saw it, that faint spark that shouldn't have existed. Or maybe she just felt it, like women sometimes do when the air changes around the ones they love. After she left for the restroom, the room fell into silence again. I turned toward him, my voice barely steady. She noticed. "I know," he whispered. "You should go after her." "I will," he said, but he didn't move. That stillness was our undoing. The weight of everything unsaid pressed down between us, guilt, longing, and the ache of something forbidden yet alive. I could see the war in his eyes, the same one burning in mine. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, running a hand through his hair. "You think I haven't tried to stop feeling this," he said, voice rough with truth. "I can't. It's like every time you walk into a room, everything else blurs." His words hit me like a spark to dry leaves. I swallowed hard, my pulse drumming in my ears. "Don't say that," I whispered, though part of me needed to hear it. He turned to face me, and for a heartbeat, there was nothing else, no sound, no fear, only the gravity pulling us closer. I stood, meaning to walk away, to end it before it broke something we couldn't fix. But when I did, he reached out, his fingers brushing mine light, trembling, hesitant. The smallest touch, yet it undid me completely. My breath caught. Our eyes met. The space between us vanished like a dream finally daring to become real. And though neither of us spoke, the silence said everything. We can't fight this anymore. The night outside deepened, the world holding its breath. And then, as if pulled by something greater than reason, we stepped closer, just as the lights dimmed again and the song began anew. The last song of the night began, a slow melody that sounded like a secret whispered to the dark. Everyone had gone home except us. The air was thick with everything unsaid, our words hanging like sparks between breaths. He stood by the window, city lights glimmering across his face. "It shouldn't be this hard," he said softly, wanting something that feels so right and so wrong at the same time. I took a slow step closer, my voice trembling. "Maybe it's not about right or wrong anymore. Maybe it's about what's real." When he turned toward me, his expression wasn't wild, it was weary, raw, full of all the things he'd tried to bury. "Real," he repeated, as if the word itself hurt. "Then tell me what we do with it." I didn't have an answer. The silence between us was heavy but not empty, it was full of truth. And in that moment, the walls we'd built began to crumble. He reached for my hand. This time, I didn't pull away. The warmth of his touch was steady, not desperate. It wasn't a reckless act, it was surrender, the quiet kind that comes when two people can't lie anymore. "I thought this was just attraction," he said, his thumb brushing over my fingers. "But it's more. I can't stop thinking about what happens after tonight." The confession shook me. I had told myself this was temporary, a fleeting spark. But hearing him say that made my heart stumble. The twist came softly, like a whisper. His phone buzzed on the table. Her name lit the screen. He stared at it, torn between two worlds, the one he had and the one that might be. He silenced it, his eyes never leaving mine. "I have to make a choice," he said quietly. "But not tonight. Tonight, I just need to feel that this was real." We stood there, hands joined, hearts trembling, the music wrapping around us like a promise and a goodbye all at once. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't touch. It was everything that came before and after both: emotion, clarity, surrender. And when the song ended, we knew nothing would ever be the same again. Morning came softly, sunlight spilling through the half-open blinds. washing the room in shades of gold and quiet memory. The karaoke lounge was empty now, yet it still carried the echoes of the night before, laughter, music, and that one heartbeat where everything changed. I sat by the window, coffee warming my hands, thoughts running in circles. The night had ended without words, without promises, yet it had said everything that needed to be said. Between us, there had been no grand confession, no dramatic ending. Just truth, raw and undeniable. He arrived quietly, as if unsure whether he still belonged in this moment. His voice was soft. "Didn't think you'd still be here." "I wasn't sure I'd stay," I admitted. He nodded, walking closer, his footsteps slow, careful, the way you move when something fragile is in the air. "About last night," he began, then stopped. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the storm in his eyes had quieted. "We don't have to explain it," I said gently. "We just have to understand it." He smiled, but it was bittersweet. "You make it sound simple." "It never is," I whispered. "But maybe that's what makes it real." We stood there for a moment, the distance between us full of everything we couldn't undo and everything we didn't regret. He reached out, brushing his thumb over the back of my hand, slow, lingering, reverent. It wasn't passion this time. It was connection. Something purer, deeper. "Whatever happens next," he said quietly, "I won't forget this." Neither will I. Outside, the city was waking up, horns, sunlight, and new beginnings. I watched the light catch his face and knew that something in both of us had changed forever. Some stories aren't about happy endings, they're about honest ones. About the people who touch your life for a moment and leave fingerprints on your heart that never fade. As he walked away, I felt no sorrow, only a strange, peaceful warmth, the kind that comes after fire has burned and left behind light. And for the first time in a long while, I smiled, because love, in whatever form it takes, had found me for a night, and that was enough.